So good afternoon. This year is Refuah Shalema for Yehuda Chaim ben Esther Sarah Refuah Shalema. And Leiden Nishma Tzvi Dov ben Chaim Pesach, Yitzchak ben Sarah, Devorah bas Yitzchak, Avram and Mordechai David, Reuven ben Shmuel, Shoshana bas Achona, Yeshua ben Shmuel, Chana Golda bas Yisrael, Chaim ben Fega, Yaakov ben Yitzchak, Mordechai Netzach ben Rivka, Rachel bas Yosef, Eliezer ben Yaakov, Chaim ben Gedalia, Zalman Levi ben Moshe, Chaim Eliyahu ben Yosef Moshe, Amichai ben Yaakov, Gedalia ben Tzvi Reuven, Leila Lishmatam. Today we're speaking about a Pesach, freedom to be slaves. What do I mean by that, Avraham? Freedom to be slaves. You look in the Safa Pasha's Bahar, the end of Vayikra, God says, Kili b'nei Yisrael avodim. The Jewish people are my slaves. Avodayhem, they are my slaves, that I took them out from the land of Egypt, Ani Hashem. So the end of Pasha's Bahar, Kosh Baruch Hu says, the whole purpose of being slaves in Egypt is to what? Learn how to be an Evet Hashem. And the Mishnah says in Avos, Ein ben chomish osik b'Torah. Who's truly free? A person that occupies himself in Torah. Because a person that doesn't have Torah, he's a slave to the internet, to Facebook, to his cell phone, smartphone, dumb phone. Some people, middle shpan esrei, the phone goes off, and they can't help themselves. That's a type of slavery, a digital slavery. So only a person that has Torah can rise above his whatever addiction that he has. A slave to a passion, to whatever he has. And Pesach is the ultimate you are there experience. Virtual reality. We learn, the Goddess says, in every generation a person has to appear as he himself, was there. Left Egypt. So therefore we play act, right? We eat the same foods they ate, and we tell the story. I think it's called show and tell, to make it real for us.
Lay on the couch.
Right, that's right. And some Sephardi Jews put the matzah, they put it on their back, and they walk around with it like, right? Pesach is the ultimate you are there experience. Pesach is a spiritual time machine. And that's what the word moed means. In Hebrew, in the Torah, the Yom Tov is called moed. Moed means a rendezvous. We cycle through time to rendezvous with Hashem. In Judaism, time is not a straight line, but time is actually, what's the word, cyclical? Circular or cyclical, right? So, a sphere, thank you. Moed means that we cycle through time to rendezvous with Hashem. And that's a symbol of the round matzah. That time is cyclical. So therefore, in order to feel that experience, because we're going through those same emotions that we went through 3,330 years ago, so therefore, we know you are what you eat. So by eating the maror, we're supposed to feel the bitterness of slavery. The matzah, what is the matzah? The matzah was the food of slaves. Rabbi Barbanel says that's what we ate in the slime pits. Matzah fills you up and also constipates you, so the slaves don't have to take so many toilet breaks. So matzah was the food of slavery, but at the stroke of midnight on Pesach night, it became the fruit of what? Of freedom. That's the way God works. Matzah was a symbol of our degradation, but on Pesach night, it became the symbol of our what? Salvation. In Yahadut, the salvation comes from the degradation itself. And therefore, God introduces us, I am Hashem your God, not created heaven and earth, that I took you out from the land of Egypt. I took you out from the land of Egypt. Why did I take you out of the land of Egypt? To make you, Hashem says, Hashem slaves. Right? Kili b'nei Yisrael avodim. Avodayhem. I took them out of Egypt to make them my slaves. Freedom to be Hashem, because if you're a slave to Hashem, then what?
And you're not a slave to anybody else.
Beautiful. You're not a slave to anybody or anything else. As I think Harry Truman said, or was it FDR? How do you get rid of a fear? Take on a bigger one.
FDR.
FDR, thank you, Connie. Take on a bigger one, right, Avram? If you fear Hashem, you don't have to fear anybody else. Right? Pretty interesting. And this explains King David sings in Psalm, Ani avdecha ben amosecha. In Psalms, Hallel, right? Ani avdecha, King David says, I am your servant, ben amosecha, the son of your maidservant. That's how you speak about your mother? Calling your mother a maidservant? Yes, Dr. Hackett? What?
It says, Moshe Eved Hashem. That's how it is described.
Eved Hashem. That's right. That's the highest title a person can reach, being Eved Hashem. So King David was not disrespecting his mother when he said that my mother is I am your slave, the son of your maiden, the son of your handmaid. Was he disrespecting his mother, Yosef? The highest title, Dr. Hackett just said, the highest title a human being can reach is to be an Eved Hashem. Right? Male or female. So he's complimenting his mother. That my mother is what? A slave to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shifra. Ben Amisecha. And exactly, Dr. Hackett read my mind. Vayom Hashem Moshe Eved Hashem. Eved Hashem. What's written on Moses' tombstone? Eved Hashem, 2 words. What about great doctor, rabbi, teacher, father of the prophets? Eved Hashem. You can't get any better than that. If you're an Eved Hashem, that's a rap. How do you say in Hebrew, a rap? That covers it all. The goal of Pesach, to feel the freedom to be God's avodim. To be God's avodim. That's true freedom, what?
Moshe doesn't have a tombstone.
Well, he died somewhere. Okay, Connie. Then his hesped. God eulogized him. Evet Hashem. That's what Torah says. Evet Hashem, right?
Everything he did was under orders.
That's right. Nachon.
Not everything. He broke the tablets on his own.
And God agreed to him, right?
That wasn't.
God agreed to
It
him.
wasn't the direct order. It was
Right.
his own.
But God knew he was going to do
Well, God knows everything, but a person still has free will, right? A person still has free will, right?
And he fought back several times. He had lots of.
Yeah.
He had lots of. Not everything's under orders.
So we
He
was,
had
yeah,
his own rights.
we were slaves to Paro in Egypt. So what do I care?
Maybe he wanted to get better.
Every one of us has their own Egypt, as we said before. Whether a slave to Facebook, smartphone, dumb phone, high tech, every person has their personal Egypt that he has to free himself on Pesach night. Very interesting, right? Now, Paroi seems to be a star, Avraham. There's a Paroi in Avraham's time. There's a Paroi in Yosef's time. And of course, there's a Paroi what? In the Exodus, Moshe's time. Why is Paroi such a star in the Torah?
Like Trump.
Paroi is the classic villain. That's how the Yetzer Hara works. That you can become ensnared in self-destructive behavior and you're trapped. Paro was engaged in self-destructive behavior, but he just couldn't help himself. As the Rambam says, a person can reach a point of no return where he knows he's engaged in self-destructive behavior and he just cannot stop. So the Torah is warning us, don't become a Paroi. Don't cross that red line into evil where you can no longer what? Help yourself and free yourself from your personal slavery to the Yetzer Hara. The word Paro, where does that word come from? Pera, very good. Per, a bad mouth, very good, Yehuda.
But there's also a verb.
Paro.
Right?
Now, Egypt, the movie got that right. Egypt worshipped the Nachash, the serpent you see on his hat. Yul Brenner had a serpent. I remember that. I'm dating myself. The movie. Pharaoh wore on the crown. He wore a serpent. Chama, you remember that? That part the movie got right. If you look at the hieroglyphics, they deified and paid glory to the Nachash. The Nachash was the first creature to speak Lashon Hara in the Garden of Eden. Paroi Pera. Paro is an expert in slander. He followed what? The personality and the character traits of the Nachash. So they worship the serpent. Pera. If you look at the Nile, Avram, on a map, you can Google it. The Nile is shaped like a serpent. The Nile is Quinky Dinky. The Nile is shaped like a serpent, and one of the main deities of Paro in Egyptian was the Nachash, and the Nachash represents the Pera. The Pera. Now that word, Paro, Pera, is written in Pashas Nosoi by a woman that's suspected by her husband of committing adultery. What does it say there, Evelyn? It says, "Hamed HaKohen es isha of Hashem." The Kohen shall place the woman in front of God in the temple courtyard, a woman that's suspected of adultery, a sota woman. Upara rosha isha. Upara rosha isha. What does that mean? Upara rosha. He shall uncover and let it all hang out, the hair of a woman. This is the pasuk to prove that a married woman has to what? Have a hair covered. Because the Torah says in Pashas Nasai that the woman suspected of adultery, the Sota, the Kohen has to uncover her hair and let it hang loose, implying that up until now her hair was what? Covered. So this is a Torah source that a married woman has to have her hair covered. It's the Sota woman who acted immorally. To shame her, the Kohen has to take off her sheitel or a tichel and let the hair hang out. And the Torah calls that upara rosh ha'isha. Para means to let it all hang out. That's paroi. Let loose. Let it all hang out. If it feels good, do it. That's the Yetzer Hara's game plan. Don't fall for it. That's what the Torah is teaching us. That don't fall for the wiles of the Yetzer Hara. Now, was Pharaoh in denial?
Yes.
He was. It says by Paro in Pashas Miketz, "V'hu omed al hayor." He was standing on the Nile River. Look in Pashas Miketz. The Pharaoh of Joseph's time doesn't say he was standing al yad hayor. It says he was standing omed al hayor. He was standing what? On the river. He was in the Nile or on the Nile? In the Nile. Huh? Standing on the river. So the Medrash comments on that. One of the deities of Egypt, besides the serpent, was the Nile River. The movie got that right too. They worshipped the Nile. That's why God turned into the blood. So the Medrash says the wicked, they stand over their gods. Pagans, they invented the gods to be an ATM machine for them. How do you say ATM machine? So Kaspamat. Their God is a Kaspamat. So by the wicked it says Omed al Hayor. The pagans, they stand over their gods. Their gods are meant to what? Serve them. What does it say by Yaakov Avinu when he had the dream? Vashem nitzav alav. God was standing over him. The pagans, they stand over their God. Their gods serve them. But by us, Hashem nitzav alav. Hashem is standing over us. We are there to serve him. He's not there to serve us. So is God here to make me happy? Or I'm here to make him happy, Avram? The wicked stand on their gods. Their God serves them. We're here to make God happy. And if we make God happy, we make ourselves happy. Because we're a piece of the rock. I am a rock, right? Hatzur, Tamim Pa'alo. God, Deuteronomy 32, calls himself a rock. We all have a Tzelem Elohim, Yehuda. We're all a piece of the rock. No? So by making God happy, we make our godly soul happy. But Paroi placed himself above his God. He was standing over the Nile. Therefore, he was in the Nile. Right? Pharaoh was the ultimate control freak. Is that correct? Avram, his whole country is being destroyed. He's going down the tubes, and he's negotiating with Moshe over the cows. You can go, but the cows have to stay. Are you out of your mind? Your country is going down the tubes. He's willing to let the people go, but no, the cattle have to stay behind. He has to be a little bit in control. So the paro inside of us, we refuse to acknowledge that Hashem is the master. Hashem controls our lives. The only true reality is what? Avram HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The only way to achieve happiness in life is to what? Is to take Hashem as your master. The Kabbalah's Ol Malchus Shemayim. Otherwise, Avram, we're trapped in digital slavery. Right? High tech, low tech. Person can be a slave to fashion, to philosophy, to the peace process, to torn jeans. Crazy people walk around torn jeans, and ladies with torn dresses. The more tears they have, the more expensive it is. I'm not joking. I saw in the window, not in Chov Yafo, and also Pisgat Zeb. If it has 3 tears, it's 250 shekels, Avram. If it has 4 tears in the jeans, it's 375 shekels. So give me the jeans untorn, I'll tear them myself. I have to pay the storekeeper to tear. That's the crazy Yetzer Hara. You're so trapped. You don't realize how foolish it is.
Is that the reason why we do karbanos?
Why do you do karbanos? Go ahead.
Karbanos because it's a way of countering what they did to animals. You know, they worshipped animals and...
Well, Maimonides says that, Yosef. The Rambam says, does God need burning animals? Maimonides in Moreh Nevuchim says, it's a concession to human weakness. So says Maimonides in Moreh Nevuchim. Because the ancients, they sacrificed to what? To their gods. So God said, do me a favor. You have this desire to sacrifice. So instead of Getchkis, do it to me. So that's the Rambam's explanation. Of course, there are many other explanations, but that's, Maimonides says, so clearly it's a concession to human weakness. Your desire, human beings have this desire to worship through sacrifice. So the ancient world had that desire. So Hashem said, instead of burning your animals to Avodah Zarah, do it to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So you're elevating that service.
But since we got rid of that desire, I think the men in the Great Assembly got rid of...
So how come when Mashiach comes, we're going to have a third temple? Maimonides claim. So Maimonides seems to contradict himself. Because in Moreh Nevuchim he said it's a concession to human weakness. Today we have that weakness, Avram, that we want to sacrifice. Yet Maimonides claims in Hilchos Beis Abchira, when Mashiach comes and builds the temple, we'll reinstitute the entire sacrificial service. But if it's only a concession to human weakness, Evelyn, then why will we have to do that?
I think it's
And why are there vegans
What?
if we didn't?
Vegans?
In other words, they want to practically put
Yeah.
animals on a pedestal.
Yeah.
They don't want to eat animals, but they also want to treat
Yeah.
them almost like human beings.
I read an article, it's because
So-
when the temple comes back, our desire will come back again.
A desire for will come back again, right? According to Rav Kook, there'll be only flower offerings. Rav Kook says that, but it's hard because Maimonides says clearly it won't just be flower offerings, it'll be animal offerings as well. So let's stay tuned, Avraham. We'll find out when Mashiach comes, right? Something to look forward to, Avraham, right?
To see if it
Right.
comes out.
Now, every one of us has a Pharaoh inside of us, Avraham, right? Talking to myself, the Yetzer Hara inside of me, my personal Mitzrayim. Let's think about it. Does a person always say, or when he goes on vacation, he says, how come it always rains on my day off? Have you heard a person say that, Avraham? Why does it always rain on my day off? Why does this always happen to me? That's the paro inside of me talking. Anger, an outburst against a God-run world. It's Pharaoh all over again. The Talmud says in Nedarim 22 and Shabbos, anyone who becomes angry is like he worships idols. Why? Because if you become angry, you believe that what? That the world runs itself. That you run, right? I would do it differently. Why is this happening to me? Don't you believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is in charge? If God's in charge, then what are you becoming angry for? It's the Pharaoh yells out inside of us. Pharaoh said, who is God that I should listen? So if I lose my temper, become angry, I'm complaining against a God-run world. It's all about me. The world has to make me happy. And if I'm having a bad hair day, then what? God is not making me happy. It's Pharaoh all over again. Now it's just amazing that Moshe Rabbeinu was 9 out of 9. He predicted 9 makkos, 9 out of 9, right? Now he predicted the 10th plague, the most devastating of all. All firstborn will drop dead, the stroke of midnight. Pharaoh himself was the firstborn. It says, Vayokom melech chadash. They didn't know Yosef. And then it says, Pharaoh got up in the middle of the night. Rashi says he got up from his bed. What is Rashi telling me? Where did he sleep? In a barn? What did Rashi say? He got up from his bed. So Rashi's pointing out that Pharaoh suffered from the 11th plague. I think it's called amnesia. Moshe was right 9 out of 9. Now he called tonight at midnight, your firstborn, your son's the firstborn, will drop dead. So Pharaoh, I don't go hide in a bunker. Remember during 9/11, George Bush, they put him in a bunker somewhere. No, he put on his PJs and he went to sleep in his waterbed like would be a regular night. So Pharaoh suffered from amnesia. Wow. That is a self-destructive behavior. That many people are engaged in self-destructive behavior. They know they're ruining themselves, but they're too ensnared. They have the Pharaoh syndrome.
How did the Pharaoh survive?
So Rashi points out that God kept him alive, even though he's a firstborn, because eyewitness news. Remember eyewitness news or CNN? He is the best witness. So he remained alive to testify that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what?
Took his firstborn son.
That firstborn son did die. But even though he was the firstborn, he was spared, said Rashi, in order to tell the world that God means business. You mess with the Jews, you're going to what? Pay a heavy price. So God kept him alive. But Pharaoh drowned out. Didn't want to hear Moshe. He threatened to kill Moshe. I think it's called shoot the messenger, right? Yaakov? Shoot the messenger, I think it's called in English, right? Yeah. Now, you say Pesach, Matzah, and Morer. Pesach, Matzah, and Morer, right? Is that the right order? Abraham. First there was Morer. Pesach represents, this is Seder night talk. The Mishnah says whoever doesn't explain these three things, Pesach, Matzah, and Morer, doesn't do his obligation. What came first, Yehuda? Morer came first. Right? Pesach is a symbol of our salvation and freedom. So how come it mentions Morer first? No, I'm testing you. Why mention Pesach first? Pesach is the salvation. Matzah is the salvation. Morer is the suffering. That should have been what? First. What's the answer? Abram, what's the answer? That all suffering in life is for a future salvation.
And God
so Pesach, Matzah, and Morer, even though Morer came first, we suffered bitterly, Mitzrayim. But the ultimate goal of all suffering is Pesach.
And God
there's a payoff. The suffering contains the salvation. The matzah, the symbol of our degradation, food of slaves, became the food of what?
Freedom.
Freedom of salvation. Yes.
God prepared the.
That's right. God prepares the salvation in the degradation, in the suffering. Pretty interesting, right?
But even before.
What? The slave bread, the bitter herbs.
The healing.
Sharansky. You know what he said?
You mean
I was a free man even in the Russian gulag.
All right.
Yehuda, how could he say that? I was a free man even in the Russian prison, he said. Because true freedom is to be free from delusion. If you know you're an Eved Hashem, you can't be an Eved to any human being. So Sharansky said, if I'm a servant of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm free. They can never imprison my soul. The body is not me, it's only my bodysuit. My godly soul is free because I'm an Eved to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Not an Eved to the Yetzer Hara or any tyrant. That's pretty interesting. Pesach is Zaman Chereseinu, the time of our freedom. Pesach, we spend 7 days in Pesach University. All of us is to free ourselves of our personal paroi, the Yetzer Hara, by acknowledging the purpose of the Makdas Ani Hashem B'Kerev Ha'oretz. Over and over again, you see in Parshas Ve'era Yehuda, it says, Ani Hashem B'Kerev Ha'oretz. I am God. What does B'Kerev mean? In the kishkis of the world. That God is intimately involved in running the world. That no one has a bad hair day, or no one stubs his toe unless God ordained it. So why become angry? Don't blame your spouse, your neighbor, who gave you a bad hair day. Who do you have to blame? The big boss. Ani Hashem b'kerev haaretz. If you serve Hashem, then you have no fear of anybody else. That God is ultimately involved in our personal lives. The Gemara in Chulin, page 7 says, a person does not even stub his toe unless HaKadosh Baruch Hu ordained that Yankel Shmerel, at this is the day, this is an hour, will stub his toe. That's the message of what? Pesach. You think of all the Yom Tovim, Pesach is the most governed by time. We're so time obsessed on Pesach. Erev Pesach is a time when you have to stop eating chametz, the time when the chametz must be burned, the time when you have to eat the afikomen. What's this Pesach obsession with time? However, these times are precise. Why are we so obsessed with time on Pesach? Burn the chametz by this time, stop eating chametz by this time, eat the afikomen by this time. Why are we so obsessed with time?
Because by the time we have to be there in order to receive the shefa from Pesach, right? Because
Pesach is our spiritual time machine, as we explained. We transport ourselves back to ancient Egypt, to Yetzias Mitzrayim. Pesach, the first Yom Tov in the Jewish calendar, teaches us to appreciate time, not to kill time or waste time, but to know how to utilize the time Hashem gave us on earth wisely. As a slave, time was not your own. It belonged to whom? Tutankhamen. Now you're no longer a slave. So time belongs to what? HaChodesh Hazeh Lechem. You have the gift of time. So therefore, make something of time. You couldn't do it as a slave. Time is yours. So be punctual, don't waste time, don't kill time. People are addicted to Facebook or their stupid smartphones. They just can't stop. That's like it's mamish and enslavement. We have to free ourselves from that and fill our lives with Torah values and to make time count. Now, from the 4 questions, I'm going to ask you the 5th one. Okay? Larry, the 5th question. Because you can't ask the same 4 every year. People get bored. Ma nishtana korban Pesach mishara karbonot. Why is korban Pesach? You won't find this on the list, but you can add it on. Ma nishtana korban Pesach mishara karbonot. Why is korban Pesach different? All other karbonot you can bring for a yochid. An individual can bring any other korban. You don't need a chabura. But korban Pesach, rak lechabura. How do you say in English chabura? Group. A yochid alone is not allowed to bring a korban Pesach. It's really a manishtana, Yehuda. You hear the question? All of the korbanos a single person brings. Korban Pesach is the only korban which an individual is not permitted to bring It has to be a chabura. Lama. Soloveitchik explains because Korban Pesach is a symbol of Cherut. An Eved cannot conjugate in a chabura. An Eved has no family life. An Eved has no social life. Remember roots? Kunta Kinte? No parent-child relationship. No chabura. You can't get together with friends or family. An Eved is only concerned about himself because all of his social ties are cut by the master to alienate him. The Korban Pesach, it says, Seh lebet ovoy, seh labayit. Family groups together. The Korban Pesach is a sign, hu ushcheno. Does an Eved care about a neighbor? A good neighbor, Sam? Eved only cares about himself. The Korban Pesach demonstrates we're no longer avadim. Now we can gather together with family, parents, children, shchenim. We are no longer slaves, so we can engage in family gatherings together with our friends and family, which is not possible when we were what? Slaves. Korban Pesach expresses our akaras hatov to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that we are no longer slaves, that we are now free people. And we can gather in groups and families together, which we couldn't do as what? As a slave. And so we express our gratitude to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu expresses his gratitude to us. Say what, Avram? God tells Jeremiah, Koyomer Hashem, Zacharti lo chesed norayich. I remember the chesed that you Jews did when you were my young kala. Hear what God is saying to us? Lechtech achrei bamidbar. Lechtech achrei bamidbar. You follow me in a desert. We had no provisions. All we had was a shtikal matzah. God said, I remember the chesed you showed me when you were my young bride. What kind of chesed did we do for HaKadosh Baruch Hu? We can do chesed for HaKadosh Baruch Hu? But that's what Yirmiyahu says. The Zohar says yes. Why is the month of Nisan called Aviv? The Torah never calls it Nisan. The Talmud calls it Nisan, the month of miracles. But the Torah calls it Aviv. Aviv is a contraction. FBI, CIA, NYPD. Av Yud Bet. The father of the 12 tribes. I'm over 40, I can study Zohar. Aviv is Av Yud Bet, Yiddish Rabbi Yaakov. Until Yetzias Mitzrayim, God was the Boreh. Boreh means he was the creator. On Pesach, God became the proud Papa, the Papa. The Jewish people were born on Pesach. God birthed us, Kaviochel, on Pesach. We were born as a nation on Pesach night. So therefore the month is called Aviv, Av Yud Bet. Av Yud Bet. God says, I appreciate you made me a proud papa. Before you came along, I was the creator. You gave me another what? Title. Now I'm also Aviv, Av Yud Bet. I am the father of the Yubet tribes, of the 12 tribes. And therefore God expresses loving kindness to us in Jeremiah. I remember the chesed you showed me when you were my young kala, that you became my child. The first message to Paroi, the first message to the UN, Avram, B'ni B'chori Yisrael. Exodus 4, you can look it up. B'ni B'chori Yisrael. My child, my firstborn is Israel. We're not just God's child, but every one of us is like God's B'chor. B'chor is special. I'm a B'chor. Why is every B'chor special? Family can have 12, 15 children. There can only be one B'chor. He's special. He changes his status. Before, they were just a young couple. After the firstborn, Yosef, they're not no longer a young couple. They are what?
Aged.
Proud parents.
Aged parents.
Now I'm a parent. The Bechor gets a double portion because the parents express gratitude to him that the parents' status changed from being just a young couple to being parents. So Hashem expresses gratitude to us. Chesed Norayich. I'm your parent now. You're my firstborn child. The first message to Paroi. So therefore the Bechor gets a double portion. And therefore God gave us a double portion, Avram. Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba. Since we're God's firstborn, as he says in Shmos Dalit, so Hashem gave us Olam Hazeh and Olam Haba. Therefore we have physical world and the spiritual world. And therefore God also gave us what? 2 Torahs. Double portion. We are his firstborn. That's pretty interesting. What?
The written and the oral.
The written and the oral Torah. That's a double portion. This world and the next world. This world and the next world. So Pesach is Ani Ledodi V'Dodi Li, Avram. Ani Ledodi V'Dodi Li. Each lover expresses gratitude to the other one. And therefore, another Manishtan Avram. You can't ask the same kashas every year. Manishtan Pesach Mikol HaChagim. It's the only Chag that we and the Torah are not on the same page. How does the Torah call Sukkot? The way we call Sukkot. But it also called Chag HaSukkot. How does the Torah call Shvuot? Chag HaShuot. Yom HaKippurim, same name. Manishtan Pesach, the Torah never calls the Chag Pesach. The Torah calls the Chag HaMatzot. Pesach refers to the animal sacrifice a day before the Yontif. Torah never calls the Chag Pesach. That's the Korban Pesach on the 14th. The Torah only calls it Chag HaMatzot. And we call it what? Pesach. We should say Akushan Chag HaMatzos. Larry, not Akushan Pesach. Akushan Chag HaMatzos. You wouldn't know what you're talking about, right? So the Rabbi Yitzchak Baditchev asked, Ma nishtana Pesach mikol HaChagim. It's the only Chag that we and the Torah do not call by the same name. Unlike Sukkot and Shavuos, which is the same name. So he explains the same idea. Ani ledodi v'dodi li, which means each lover praises and compliments the other. God calls it Chag HaMatzot. The matzah is a symbol, matzah, man. As he tells Jeremiah, you followed me in the desert, you had no provisions, all you had was the matzah. That's a symbol of my endless love. So God calls it Chag HaMatzot, praising us for our endless love to him. Even though we had no food, no provisions, we trusted him and we said, God will follow you anywhere. So God praises us, compliments us, Chag HaMatzot, symbol of our undying love to him. Pesach, Passover. Even though our firstborn also worshipped Avodah Zarah, in Memtesh Shari Tumah, God lovingly and compassionately passed over, even though we also sinned with Avodah Zarah. So we call the Chag Pesach, praising God for passing over our firstborn, even though we also guilty of Avodah Zarah. So we call it Pesach, praising him, and he calls it what? Chag HaMatzot, praising us. Ani ledodi v'dodi li. Each lover praises the other one. And that's a symbol for married life. You know? Each spouse should praise the other one. Isn't that amazing, Avram? That's a happy marriage. Instead of just focusing on the negative part of your spouse, after all the tzoros we gave God, the Chet HaEgel, the wild Moabite women, the mutiny of Korach, the grumblers, the complainers, what does God remember? Chesed Norayich, Lech Techachmai Bamidbar. What about Avram, all the tzoros we gave HaKadosh Baruch Hu? When you love each other, you focus on the positive. My Rebbe Rapam would say, when couples are fighting, they should take out their wedding album. Buddy, take out your wedding album, he said. What? God took out his wedding album. What?
I threw mine
mine away.
Oh, yeah. God, and after all the tzaras we gave him, the golden calf, and the mutiny, and the maraglim, God tells Jeremiah, I remember the lovey-dovey days when you were my sweetheart. Look at Jeremiah chapter 2. It says, Rapam Zatzal, my Rebbe, you see what God is doing? He's taking out the wedding album. Look how happy we were. We can once again be happy again. So happy together. You hear this? Isn't that amazing? Of course all couples fight. Right? Who wrote the book? Men are from Venus and women are from Mars? Or vice versa? Okay. I'm glad somebody's listening.
Who's the author?
I don't know, but anyway.
Got divorced or something.
But the message is that despite the quarrels, since God and us love each other, each one focuses what? On the good times. So therefore it's important to have a wedding album. My Rebbe said, some couples came to him and said, "This Rebbe, we don't have much money, and it's hard for us to what? To pay for a photographer." He says, borrow the money, make sure you have a wedding album. Because you're bound to quarrel, it's only natural. But when you quarrel, take out the wedding album. Look how madly in love we were with each other, and we can be again. Despite the difficulties. Who sang that song? I'm dating myself. The best part of breaking up is making up. Neil Sedaka. Abraham. I'm dating myself. You're a Brooklyn boy. Tzadok, a Syrian Jew. Tzadok. The best part of breaking up is making up.
Who's Neil Sedaka?
You never heard Neil Sedaka? Come on.
What was his real name?
His real name, Tzadok, Neil Tzadok. He grew up in Brighton Beach. And he comes to Israel, goes to the Kotel. He's very traditional. So, that's what Hashem says. The best part of breaking up is making up. So after the argument, it's lovey-dovey again. And that's, the Gemara Nida says, that's one of the ideas why the laws of Nida. One of the ideas of laws of Nida. The temporary separation, says the Gemara Nida. So when the woman comes home from the mikvah, it's what? Honeymoon night all over again. The marriage does not become stale. Your desire for her is kindled after 2 weeks of separation.
For 3.
Well, normally it's between 12 and 14 days, right? So this ignites the passion. That's what Hashem wants. So we have to remember Pesach is a holiday of chesed. But the first chesed you have to do is to your better half. Oh, before you can do chesed, Judaism teaches charity begins at home. Look in Pashas Mishpatim. Charity, chesed begins at home. You want to do chesed for other people, but first you have to do chesed with your own spouse. Not to take her for granted, to praise her. What a delicious supper, sweetheart. What a beautiful, tidy house you kept. Who taught us to do that? Yosef, who? Kodesh Baruch Hu. He praises us, even though we give him a hard time. He said, I remember the lovey-dovey days, the chesed you did for me, my sweetheart. Despite all of what? The sins we committed against him. Since he loves us, he focuses. I think the song goes, you got to accent the positive and not focus on the negative.
That's not Neil Sedaka.
That's not Neil Sedaka. That's HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Jeremiah chapter 2. Aram, they got everything from us. We have a class on Thursday. Thursday, current events in the Haggadah. Please bring your Haggadah for highlights.